Welcome to the show, All Things Writing. I am your host, Brian the Writer. Let me take you on a journey through my writing life and introduce you to some of the amazing talent that exists in the writing world. Whether you are looking for a little advice or just to catch an interesting interview, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All Things Writing starts now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to All Things Writing. I'm your host, Brian the Writer. I am busy writing, as the name implies, but also I'm interviewing authors and doing author-related things like that. Today is no exception. I have a wonderful guest. Came to me through a publicist, if I remember correctly. Asked me if I'd be interested in interviewing this person. And I read their bio. I read the material on them, and I'm like, hey, this sounds great. This sounds great. I have received kind of the back matter for his latest novel, or his next novel coming out in January, I want to say. It's coming out this month. Or maybe it's February. We're going to ask him here in a moment. His name is Chris Grooms. I want to show you this cover art, by the way. Look at this cover art. Isn't it gorgeous? It's, we always say don't judge a book by its cover, but of course we do that naturally. Yeah, you can see it's quite lovely. And we are going to ask him about that cover art as soon as we get him on and talk about, kind of where it came from. I think a friend of his did that anyway. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. All right. Without further ado, let's get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Chris, welcome to All Things Writing.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you having me on again.
Oh, are you kidding me? I love repeat guests. I love it. I love it. I love it. For those people that don't know you, want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
That's a great question. And one I don't normally enjoy talking about. 2020, with the COVID hit, everything shut down. Kids were gone out of the house. My wife was back in Colorado helping out her parents. I had some creative energy that needed to be released, so I started writing. And it was a fun process. I have to mention Sierra Medeiros and Jeannie Rayner, two wonderful women that were so important in helping me work through this. And also to my beta readers, my mother, my sister-in-law, Karen, and just Rebecca Spangler-Locke just really was part of that process. And it was a lot of fun. And that's one advice that if I can real quick for young writers, new writers, not necessarily young because I'm not young, but new writers, get a tribe of people that will beat you up, smack you over the head. My youngest son, Samuel, is so good at doing that, about ripping apart the manuscript and, hey, you repeated this, 17 times, come back to us. I'm a contractor supporting the Marine Corps. I retired out of the Marine Corps after 20 years in 2008. We like Virginia. We settled here and raised both my boys here. My wife and I continue to stay here, and we enjoy being Virginians.
Yeah, I like it here myself. I'm actually someday I do want to retire to North Carolina, but for now I'm content where I'm at here in Northern Virginia.
I agree. Yeah. If I'm going to go anywhere, it's going to be the Caribbean. So
there you go. Maybe dig into your piratical tendencies.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
So I'm going to talk about a rule that you and I violate all the time as readers, I'm sure. That rule being never judge a book by its cover, because we all do it. I mean, honestly, that's the thing that gets us to pick a book up off the shelf and look at it, is the cover art. I showed it at the beginning of the show. Through the miracle of editing, I'm going to put it up now. Budding. I don't know why budding has become my magical noise, but it is. But there's the cover. It's gorgeous. And so I want to tell you I wanted to ask you, how did that cover art come to be? What was the process?
So what I've really wanted to do with all of my characters is avoid letting you see their full figures, their full faces, because I think we all have a mental image in our minds what characters look like. And sometimes I think when you see a photograph or you see a drawing or a rendering of them, you're kind of disappointed. That's not how I envisioned them. So for this cover, I wanted Jamie to show Seth walking away, sort of wraith-like, the gloves, the tattered cloak, the dirty boots, and then the horse is so important to him. Western Union is his mare. He inherited her from his uncle, and horses are very central to the stories that I write in Tales of Guyand, and I wanted her featured prominently in there with nothing on, no saddle, no bridle, and she's just walking away from the camera with him. And he nailed it. He absolutely nailed the cover. We made one tweak to adding the bowstring, and he's going to lighten the cover a little bit, because when I got the author's proof, the right hand corner was very dark. Of the right hand lower corner was very dark, and you can't see a lot of the detail that he put into it. But Jamie's done all 4 of my covers. I love his work. We've known each other since junior high school, and he just does terrific work. And his maps are just as gorgeous. But I get more compliments off of my covers than anything else. And you're right, people are drawn to the books when they initially come up to the table to talk to you about, oh yeah, that cover's awesome. So yeah, that's an important process to it. And I do spend some time thinking it through. I think we all do what we want to convey with that. So
and I even think when we are working with, like, say I'm working with Jumpmaster Press now, when it is your book. Those are your words. I rely on the publisher when we get our cover done for this next book. I rely on them to really sort of put something together that's going to sell the book. But that research into what that cover should look like, I think is so critical. And I think sometimes as authors, especially new authors, I know I didn't give it much thought until like the book was done. I'm like, oh yeah, now I need a cover. And so it's always good to have somebody on your side that does know how to do that.
No, I agree. I agree. And you wanted to kind of convey the feel of what the book is, the title of the book. And actually I gotta, flip that around too, is the blurb that's on the back of that. And I think that's some of the hardest writing to do is to boil down. Exactly. To boil down, 649 pages of what you've written into, some bullets that will grab somebody's attention. Yeah. And I got, again, my hat's off to Sarah. She jumped in and helped me rewrite the blurb. Yeah. And I think it's very impactful of, what she came up with to help me to get that shaped. And it really sort of fits the theme of the book. If you don't know the previous 3 stories that I wrote, his nickname, the Wraith, doesn't make a lot of sense to you. But now if you look at the back cover, you figured out, hey, I got it. So
yeah. I think it makes sense.
You get your tribe around you that will partner up and make sure you have very, very thick skin.
Yeah, I get by with a little help from my friends, as the song goes.
Yes.
Now about the book. So Seth Blackhawk is our main character. And when we meet Seth, he's a very young protagonist. I love young protagonists, by the way, because, I think as a writer, you can actually do quite a bit with them, but there's a balancing act. So how do you balance writing a character who's essentially kind of has this mythic expectation swirling around him, but at heart, he's really just a teenager. So how are you balancing those 2 things as you write?
I like that question. He is a teenager. He's, when you're first introduced to him, he's 13, 14 years old. In this story, he's somewhere around 16, 17, but he's been robbed of life. This war has robbed him of those youthful experiences that maybe other kids farther south in the southern realms are enjoying. He had to grow up quick. He had to fight. He and his mother had to fight to escape. Essentially, he's fought, for the last 2-3 years as the storyline progresses. He had to grow up fast, and he doesn't have time to be a teenager. Someday
Yeah.
maybe he can get some youthfulness to him, but I just don't think that's his demeanor. He's very serious. He's a very stoic young man, and I kind of like that play with him.
Yeah. It. We I hate to draw parallels between fiction and real life, because fiction is how we escape real life. I think of kids in places like Ukraine and war torn areas that are essentially robbed of their childhood at this point. So I think it's a concept and an idea that we can, especially you and I as former military people, still in the Department of Defense realm. I think you and I um, can both sort of identify with.
Oh, I think there's examples throughout American history. Look at the Revolutionary War. There was, you had teenagers that were, high ranks. You look at the Civil War, and you had teenage boys that were, fifing drums and fighting, at 15, 16. There's even stories that you and I both know of young men fudging their draft cards and enlisting at age 15, 16 to fight in World War II. So teenage soldiers are not, sadly, there's many examples throughout history.
It shouldn't be. Children should be allowed to be children.
Agreed.
So now the novel places Seth between these two very competing obligations. He has to protect Beth Ammon's eastern flank and reclaiming and also reclaim a homeland as well. These are conflicting oaths. It's going to divide loyalties. How are we using those devices to shape kind of that emotional core of the story?
I actually had to read your question a couple of times as I was, trying to formulate my response to it. But there's a lot in that question. I'll be honest. Oh yeah, there is. There is, and so hopefully I can answer it satisfactorily. But I really see these as instead of conflicting oaths, I kind of look them as sort of complementary promises. Seth, like the rest of his family, is loyal almost to a fault, and he spent time in Beth Amin. He served in the Beth Amin military. His brother is married now to the Queen of Beth Amin. So yes, he's got some loyalties there, but I think he wants to fulfill both of those promises, and I think he works hard to do that throughout. His first patrol that he takes is right up the western side of Black Hawk, and he's looking at these forge sites, and he's looking at how he can defend Beth Amin's eastern flank. He knows Beth Amin can't fight a two-front war. He understands that concept. So I think throughout the book, I think he keeps both of those in the back of his mind as he works these through. And I think the story brings it to a satisfactory conclusion that he's able to do both. I am also, I consider this book sort of a companion to the first three novels that I wrote. I put an author's note inside that says that the Wraith runs concurrently halfway through Ripley's Keep through the conclusion of Rise of the Archmage. Yeah. So while his brother's off doing these things, Seth is on his own separate journey, same timeline, if that makes sense. And I've also, I have out for beta reading right now, Maria Blackhawk, the Queen of Beth Amin, her story, which will be a parallel. So I think he does quite well throughout the book, balancing these two obligations. There is a scene where he is now, instead of wearing his Beth Amin trooper uniform, he's now required to wear a Black Hawk Brigade uniform. And I wrote a scene where there's a conflict between himself as he's looking at this uniform, knowing that, this is the uniform of my father and uncle and grandfather, but my brother will never wear this uniform. And that bothers him because the two brothers are so close. So there is some conflict with it, but I think it's resolved by the end of the book.
Okay. No, I think that's a great answer. I think that works very well. I think as I was reading that, I was thinking to myself, there's got to be a point where he's thinking, can I manage to do both things? There has to be, but I don't know.
I don't think he ever gives that a second thought. I think it's just something that she says to him, as the Queen says to him as he leaves, protect my eastern flank. And he says, I will, without even giving it a second thought. So,
Okay.
what is it? 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
Yeah.
I think that's how he views himself.
And honestly, at that age, you are. You
Right.
think you're going
Right.
to live forever, right? So, and you talked about the Black Hawk Brigade a little bit. Now we see this storied military organization, and now they're facing collapse. Now they're in tough shape. Um, I love that idea. But what drew you to tell a story about the army that is basically on collapse, and now it's fighting from a very weak position?
So in the brigade, the Black Hawk Brigade, in the first three novels is mentioned as this brigade of horse cavalry soldiers that saved the battle at the Mulford River 20 years earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and their fame just kind of grew out of that. And but I think one of the things I was looking at with this is there's a sacrifice aspect to this. And you mentioned it before, we're both former military. We understand sacrifice. And I'll speak to that a little more because you bring that up at the end. And I thought those were very, very good questions. But it's also, there's a historic aspect to this sort of rising from the mat, the phoenix coming out of the ashes. Everyone loves the underdog. And it's a trope that is used all the time. I think of Rocky, Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
Rogue One. Those are all underdog stories that we love. And the brigade soldiers, they fought valiantly to defend their nation and to buy their civilians time to flee south. They held the line. They allowed the nation to catch its breath and regroup. And I think that's where we find them. And I think the thing about Seth that comes into this is this teenage kid kind of gives them a spark of hope. That maybe we can rise up and beat this force that's pressing down on us.
I was thinking of what's her name, the French teenage girl who was told by God to Joan of Arc. I was thinking Joan of Arc.
Right.
Actually, I at one point I was in France where she was burned at the stake.
Nice.
You can go to, there's a church there. It's actually really interesting and very, very powerful expression of that kind of sacrifice that you have to make. The kind of things that make people fear others like that, others who are powerful and strong leaders. Corruption and betrayal. Let's talk about that territorial government. You have governments being government in that point, right? I mean, it plays a major role. It plays an important part in the story. What was your interest in kind of exploring that internal decay as a function of the threat or one of the threats? Is it equal to or greater than the aiding or in the invading army? How does that play a role?
I think it's equal to the invading army. If to quote the Bible, to quote President Lincoln, "A house divided cannot stand." So I wanted to bring some depth to the story for the characters that were not directly involved in physical fighting. Ezra, the governor of Black Hawk, is one of those, and then Helen Black Hawk, Seth's mom, is another one. I wanted to give them some agency, a voice in this conflict. It's the governor who is fighting to overcome internal strife within his government. Not everybody's pulling on the rope in the same direction. There's some in it for their own personal gains. There's this demon that's kind of swirling around out there. The rivermen are fighting him, and so there's a bunch of conflicts that he's got to deal with. He admits that he's neglected social aspects through all of this. He's just solely focused on the war. Helen brings some relief to some of that, but also too, I think he shows his leadership in being strong, big-shouldered, taking all this burden on himself as he tries to lead his nation to victory or preserve his nation, however that works out. But you see his internal conflicts throughout the book where he questions have I done enough? He's got to deal with personal loss, the loss of a son, the loss of a wife. His youngest son is a lieutenant in the brigade. So Ezra's got a lot of things pulling on him. And I think it's fun to watch him as he overcomes. He's not in combat. He is a veteran. He fought. He knows the sacrifices. But to watch him overcome all the obstacles put in his way. And I think in the end, I'm not going to reveal it, but he's successful in what he does. But there'll be some twists and turns along the way.
As I'm fond of saying, there are no spoilers on all things writing.
No, there's not.
Unless, of course, the author spoils things. That's on them. I don't know.
Exactly. But I liked some of these characters that I was able to bring forth that were in various places within the government. It also gave kind of a life, some city life that I haven't really looked at in previous books. So, you have the constables, you have a fire brigade, you have, some of these things that within New Bright, the government has to flee to get to New Bright, to be farther south and safe. So I kind of liked that aspect of it and how, things kind of came full circle for them.
Yeah. And I think when you are telling the story of a city, you almost have to build in those things. You mentioned fire brigade. There's going to be a constabulary. There's going to be, the people that pick up the garbage, municipal workers. There's got to be that part in there. Otherwise, the story ends up being almost too clinical. Almost, it's very, very vanilla, and I don't think it flows all that well. Yeah.
And the other thing too to balance with is, even though, again, we're dealing with fiction, there has to be a certain amount of realism to your fiction.
Sure.
So it fits sort of your time period. And I get asked this question quite a bit when I do, like Author Con and Comic Con and some of these events. What time period is your book set in? And one of the things that I think about is probably the late 1500s, early 1600s. There's some technology that's emerging. You've got multiple story buildings. You've got, restaurants are starting to come on the scenes. Of course, you've got taverns and some of those things I find that research a lot of fun to do, to go back and ask those questions. When was indoor plumbing invented? When did we start being able to refrigerate and those type of things? I think that's a fun part of the research, but it also keeps you honest. In my first book, I wrote a scene where Seth and Wolf are talking in the barn, and Wolf pulls up a hay bale and sits down. Well, through the editing process, I finally caught that and had to go back in and say, when were hay bales created? Well, the late 1800s. So you can't put that in there. So you have to change that to a stool. But fiction readers, especially fantasy fiction readers, they're brutal.
Oh, God. Yeah. So horror readers are the same way.
Right. I mean, they're extremely loyal, but they're brutal too. Yeah. So listen to somebody have a conversation about Star Trek or Star Wars.
No. Don't ever do that. Oh boy. We do not need that kind of negativity in our lives. Believe me.
Exactly.
I have behind me a whole shelf of forensics books. One I have is the Medicological Examination of Death. It's literally the book that they use to determine cause of death that medical examiners use. It's very, very thick. It's expensive. But I got it because if I am going to write about somebody finding a body that died in a certain way, boy, oh boy, people will dig into that. And if you are wrong, they'll be all over you. So I'm literally quoting from the actual, I'm not quoting from, but I'm reading it and going, okay, this is what a ligature mark really looks like when somebody's been strangled to death. This is what a limb looks like when it's been chopped off. You have to do that kind of thing just to be genuine.
Yes, I agree. And I think that, I have a it's almost a child's book. Eyewitness visual dictionaries, ships and sailing. Yeah. And I keep it on the corner of my desk. So when I'm writing ship scenes, I can use the nautical terms from a sailing ship.
Absolutely.
So And I think
Yeah.
that adds a little bit of realism, to what you're doing, but you still have to keep the fantasy aspect as well.
Okay, a complete aside here, but when you're writing, what book, you go first, what book do you turn to most often, do you think? Like a reference document.
I don't know. I right now. Oh, I'll tell you which ones I do. I have all three of my authors' proofs from my three previous novels sitting on my desk.
Okay.
They are flagged and marked and highlighted, and I constantly use those to make sure that what I'm saying in a current book fits what I had in the previous. Those are
Okay.
that's my valuable ones. Like I said, the sailing ship ones. I've got one on castles, so I keep those close by to use them because sometimes the internet doesn't have that detail that you're looking for, and the
That's
books
true.
do.
That's
So.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. What about you?
I have Rodale's Synonym Finder, which is a fantastic resource. It's filled with a gazillion different words, and actually, the writing is so small. I use this, and I
Yes,
even use it with my reading glasses because I'm of that age.
exactly.
And the other one I use quite often is Forensics for Dummies.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's really good. It doesn't go into that like excruciating detail, but it gives you enough that you can make sure you can get it right.
Right, right, right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Use that one extensively when I was writing one of my books because there was a lot of police procedure involved. But anyway, yeah, fun question. So I want to ask, you had mentioned it a little bit earlier, the presence of a mysterious demon that manipulates the events of things going on around them. It to me, that's a very interesting layer to add to this story. Not the presence of a demon is not necessarily a new part of the storyline. You see it in other books. I've used it
Right.
myself. But did you, and I know I have, did you draw the examples of the demon or the things that the demon is doing from like other storylines that you've read? And what does your demon represent in terms of your book?
Well, I think well, first of all, demons are very versatile and they're very useful.
They can do anything.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
they can be, just an imp that's just annoying the crap out of a character to a demon like Belhaz that's bent on global destruction. So I like using them. I think they're a fun twist. And it just presents, like you said, just another layer within your storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Terry Brooks,
Mm-hmm.
his use of demons is fantastic. He uses them singularly. He uses them as a demon horde. He writes each one so vividly that you can see them in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
But he uses them throughout his Shannara series and his 6-book prequel to Shannara. With the fall of mankind, it's fantastic. He uses them to shape the story, to drive the story. They're strong and powerful. But what I like that he does is, if the protagonists unite, they can defeat the demon.
Yeah.
There's always that flaw, and the humans or the elves or whoever can pull together and defeat this. And I like how he does that. Are you familiar with Frank Peretti?
No.
Okay. Anyway, they consider him the Christian Stephen King.
Okay.
But anyway, he also employs demons in his books very effectively.
I'm gonna write that name down.
Yeah, Clear and Present Darkness, I think, was his first book, and I think you spell it Papa Echo Romeo Romeo Echo Tango Tango India.
There's going to be several people watching this and go, "What?" You and I, naturally, that's just how we spell things. We don't. Sorry, non-military people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Two vets walk into a bar. Anyway.
Exactly. But aside from the bad guy aspect,
Yeah.
there's sort of this form of spiritual warfare. They're an unseen, undetected presence spreading malice. And I like the conflict, especially in this book, that this singular demon brings to it. And not everybody can sense him or defy him, but there are two characters that are in conflict with him throughout the entire book. And I find that part of it fascinating. And one recognizes, hey, we're not just dealing with men anymore in orcs. This is demons. This is, beyond, what we can handle alone. Yeah. So, yeah.
I was just thinking of a recent, I was in church a few weeks ago, and they were talking about a demonic need to divide people. That's the first thing that popped into my head. United, it's when you've got that idea of a united front together can overcome anything.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I on kind of on the flip side of that, Helen Blackhawk is a very spiritual woman. Her faith is strong, and you see that come out, in the book as it progresses, and she clings to that faith. She clings to that strength that her faith brings her.
Interesting. So now, at the heart of this storyline, there is a suggestion that the skills of a military leader may not be necessarily what wins the day. There could be profound personal sacrifice involved. What questions about leadership, sacrifice, and legacy are you most interested in exploring in this novel?
So let me start with legacy. Again, we both wore the cloth of our nation, and the Army has units that have just these incredible legacies surrounding them. The 101st Airborne Division, Patton's Third Army,
34th Infantry Division.
Exactly. Those organizations have a long legacy. The Marine Corps has the same thing. 1st Marine Division. We have those. But Seth's heritage is from a long line of warriors, and their legacy has, and in a way, almost overshadowed him. And you see that in Legends and Ripley's Keep. But watching his emergence from the shadows in his own novel was fun. To let him kind of throw off those things that were binding him and let him flourish on his own, to the point where folks are going, hey, he's as good as his brother, and I would hate to live on the difference. He shows more power than his uncle does at this age. So he really comes into his own. And I like that he's got that legacy that he can lean on. It's a proud legacy, and he takes pride in that, but he emerges from that legacy to shape his own, legacy. Yeah. Going after the leadership aspect, it's very difficult to write a military-centric set of books that doesn't focus on leadership. Yeah. And as Marine, leadership to me is everything. Yeah, 100%. Right. We don't use words like supervise, manage. It's leadership. And I try to showcase this throughout my books. Strong leaders serve those they lead. They put their soldiers' needs first before their own. I like this analogy. It's that steady hand on the tiller. Yeah. When chaos reigns, when you're getting the crap kicked out of you, it's that strong leader who's the calm voice of reason. And throughout the first three novels and this one, I think you see characters that are like that. All hell's breaking loose, but there they are, right in the thick of things, holding everything together. And I like those type of strong leaders, and to showcase that leadership. Yeah. We both served, so we understand sacrifice, not only our personal sacrifice, but the sacrifice of our families as well. But I think sacrifice is at the core of this book. I think throughout, even the first three novels, the sacrifice is there. I reference the brigade sacrifices, in defending the nation to let the civilians flee south. There's many tales throughout the book of personal sacrifices that they make. And it's not just the soldiers going into battle to make those sacrifices. It's the sacrifices behind the lines. What are we sacrificing? We don't have as much food that we need in the towns, but because we're sending it forward for our soldiers.
Yeah.
So those type of sacrifices. Yeah. And I think that comes out well throughout the story, the sacrifices that people make to push this along.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely, I love what you said about leadership. I've said in my own roles in my civilian job, I say, I'm a supervisor. My job is not to change things. My job is to check and make sure the timing belt is correctly tuned and maybe adjust it every once in a while. But I let my people shine, because by letting your people shine, you're doing your job.
Agreed.
And it's and I think that's an important lesson for really anyone. Don't muck around too much. Just trust your people, right?
Trust but verify.
Trust but verify. Make sure the work gets done, but trust it'll get done.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I appreciate, Chris, you coming back on the show. I always appreciate when people sit there and say, "I'll hang out with him again for a little while." But the most important question we ever ask on All Things Writing, Chris, is where can people find your work?
So you can contact me directly, talesfromguyand@gmail.com. I can sign it. I can put it in the mail, ship it off to you. I've got copies of the first three books here. chrisgrooms.com. website, and I'm on both Amazon and Barnes and Noble for them. But please, Jeff Bezos doesn't need any more of your money. Chris Grooms does. So if you could, throw those dollars my way, it would be much appreciated. The one thing I would like to do is also I have a Facebook page, Tales from Guyand, which is on Facebook. But one of the reasons why I'm doing this with you today is to really promote the new book, The Wraith, and I'm excited about it. It's been a 2-year process to get here. It's been written, rewritten. Again, my son Samuel and Sarah and Karen just absolutely obliterated the book the first round, and it had to be rewritten. So which is good. So, but I'm going to do a launch on the 21st of February from 11 to 3 p.m. at a place called Time and Space Comics in Stafford, Virginia. And the two owners, Kent and Craig, have been so good to me. They carry my books in their stores. When I approached them about this idea as being the first place to launch, they said they would love to host it. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking for vintage toys, comic books, go see Kent and Craig at Time and Space Comics. The following day, the 22nd, I'm going to be at the shops at Caroline Square in Fredericksburg. Mm-hmm. The owners, Bill and Janice, have again been fantastic to me. They've hosted me 2 or 3 times now, and so I want to be there on that Sunday afternoon to really show my new book. And then, are you going to Williamsburg at the end of February?
Absolutely.
I will see you there at Scares That Cares in Williamsburg for that long weekend. So.
It'll be
Sarah, and look forward to getting down there. So
I'm sharing a table with Brian Grover.
Yes,
as the Killer Bees.
Exactly. Don't want to miss that show.
No. Oh no. And this is going to be a lot of fun. We have special hats we bought just for the occasion. They're llama hats.
Along with the kilt, I think it's a great look.
Yeah, I'll actually have to remind Brian to bring his as well. So we're all looking good. But anyway, audience, go to Williamsburg for AuthorCon 6. I think this is 6, right? I think this is 6. It's a wonderful event. and it's a good time. It's a good time. So you'll see Chris there. You can buy signed books. Buy signed books. Come on.
Exactly.
All right. Well, on behalf of All Things Writing, I want to thank you all for listening and watching and viewing and all that great stuff. Stay tuned. We'll have, this is 2026, so we're going to have more author interviews coming up. And on behalf of myself and my wonderful guest, Chris Grooms, this is All Things Writing, signing off.
Thank you.
This has been another amazing episode of All Things Writing. If you heard something that got your wheels spinning, check out the links in the show notes. Also, please follow the show and remember to leave those reviews. Those simple acts of kindness mean the world to us. Hop on over to briannowak.com, and that is Brian with a Y, and check out my latest novels. I'm on Amazon or wherever you buy your ebooks. And as a reminder, the music you heard on the show today was used under license from the artist Ryan Ancona. Thanks for listening to the show and have a blessed day.